Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today, wherever you are in this great world. We're going to talk about XRP. And I got to start with this from Kanji. If you hold over 2,000 XRP, you're part of an exclusive group among the top 10% of all XRP holders globally. I always tell people, if you're going to invest into crypto and if you're going to buy XRP, never overinvest. Buy whatever you can afford. Sit back, stay patient, and watch it happen. You know, everybody's telling other people they need 20,000 XRP or they're not going to make it. In the coming months, once XRP breaks above $20, it's going to cost $20,000 to buy 1,000 XRP. And people still don't think that 1,000 XRP is going to be life-changing. Give it 2 years, and 1,000 XRP will make you a legend. That's what's coming, because XRP is only going to continue upward. We're on the verge of institutional adoption. That's going to lead us to mass adoption. People at that time, they're going to be buying maybe 1 to 10 XRP. Then it will continue to go higher. People will start buying a piece of 1 XRP. They'll be buying drops of 1 XRP. Don't listen to these people that are telling you that you need to hold a certain amount of XRP. Buy whatever you can afford. XRP Ledger is a community with very limited liquidity beyond XRP and RLUSD. The chain's potential for meme coins is huge, but it will only be reached if we manage to attract attention from outside XRP Ledger. The majority of XRP holders are unlikely to change this. Many have all their attention on XRP itself. Others simply do not know how to interact with tokens beyond buying or selling XRP on exchanges. So if XRP Ledger meme communities really want to grow, they must start actively expanding into other ecosystems with a degen and meme culture like Solana, Ethereum, or Base. You know why people don't buy meme coins on the XRP Ledger? Because most XRP holders moved away from meme coins a long time ago. And meme coins are about to disappear with regulations. Look they just started that cross-border task force at the SEC and CFTC. You know what that focuses on? Rug pulls, like most of these meme coins. The XRP Ledger was not built for meme coins. It was built for institutional adoption. But if you talk to an XRP holder, they're never going to mention a meme coin. They're still way focused and locked in on utility. This comes from Uphold. 2 systems, 1 future. DeFi and TradFi aren't rivals. They're converging into tomorrow's rails. You know, everybody always says it's DeFi versus TradFi, but that's not what's going on. What's happening is TradFi and DeFi are coming together. And there's a lot of traditional institutions that don't want to make that switch over to DeFi. They want to keep the system the way it is today because they're cashing in on this system. DeFi changes the system. It cuts out all the middlemen and it cuts out a lot of the fees. You know, these big banks like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, they want to stay in this system because they're cashing in. The difference is this. Once TradFi and DeFi come together, whoever's not on board will be left behind. That's what's really going on. The SEC and CFTC eye 24/7 trading for stocks. Non-stop trading could supercharge markets just like crypto. The reason they want to go 24/7 with this stock trading is because the stock market is becoming tokenized now, and it's about to move globally. It's no longer going to be focused just within the United States. People could invest in stocks in the US stock market anywhere in the world. That's game changing. That's going to bring all this new liquidity into the stock market. And it's the same thing that's going on in the crypto space. It's a global market. It's not just focused on one country. Everybody's so hung up on what the United States is doing. But you got to look beyond the United States as a crypto investor as well. Big things are happening in the EU. They're happening in the UK and so on. The BRICS. Everything's expanding and growing out all around the world. And that's why even back in the bear market, Ripple went global. They started expanding everywhere else outside the United States. The world is a very big place. Don't focus just on the US. Retail stablecoin adoption hits new high as adoption soars. So adoption of stablecoins is happening faster than ever before. In August, transactions under $250, also known as retail size transfers, pulled in more than $5.84 billion. This is the highest value that has ever been recorded per Visa and Allium, which were cited in the report. There are still about 4 months left for this year to end, and 2025 is already the busiest period for stablecoins, particularly for transfer volume at the level of the consumer. Consumers are starting to use stablecoins, and this is where the surge is really happening. So this comes out of Nigeria, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Indonesia. All of these respondents shared their different reasons for adopting stablecoins and their future expectations for the crypto asset tied to fiat currency. A major percent of the 2,600 customers claim that they turn to stablecoins to evade high banking fees and slow transfers. That shows you that they're tired of SWIFT as well, because a lot of people work in other countries and they send money back home. They don't want to pay those high fees, and they want those transactions to be instant. They don't want it to take days anymore. Stable coins are a big game changer. But when you utilize a stable coin and a cryptocurrency like XRP, it makes it even better. And that's what's great about XRP. It's going to emerge as the world's bridge currency. Why don't you own any Bitcoin? Because its price is out of most people's reach, and that's why there's XRP. You know, when retail, everybody keeps saying retail didn't even come back yet. We're still waiting on retail FOMO. Well, where do you think that money's going to go? Retail is not going to jump into Bitcoin, not above 100K, and they're not going to jump into Ethereum above $4,000 when there's XRP sitting around $3. That's why we're going to see a lot of retail FOMO for XRP as well. I think the FOMO for XRP this time around is going to be absolutely insane. Everybody's going to want to buy XRP, especially when it really starts to break out. There's going to be people buying at $10, at $15, $20. And a lot of retail is going to start to get priced out along the way. People are going to be buying pieces of one XRP. It's going to be a crazy time to watch. The reason SWIFT will become the next Kodak. Take a listen to this.
But it's not true that SWIFT is really used as to... SWIFT never closed the country. So you could think of that, but they're closing sanctioned banks. So they're preventing sanctioned institutions to use the network. like anybody, like any banks cannot do business or any corporates cannot do business with a sanctioned entity.
So it's more like you turned off a specific node.
Yes.
You didn't actually turn off, let's say, a geographic cluster.
Yeah, the whole country.
Yep.
So that's important to make a difference. But will CBDC has an impact on SWIFT as it exists today? Yes, it will. That's one of the reasons why I left SWIFT, by the way, because I think that if they don't get their act together, they might be disappearing, a bit like Kodak in the 80s. So yes, they definitely
fighting words there.
So there will be an impact on companies like SWIFT, but also on credit card companies like Mastercard and Visa, and that's why they have a big interest in that technology because they know that it will have an impact on them.
And they are enabling crypto payments, or at least to purchase crypto with Visa.
And in crypto, we have now travel rules.
And that was back in 2021. They knew back then that SWIFT's future was uncertain. That guy even left SWIFT because he knew SWIFT wasn't the future. But remember the sanctions? That's why the BRICS are going to push away from SWIFT as well. They're already looking down the road at an alternative. And people still don't think that Ripple is eventually going to replace SWIFT. I think SWIFT is going to get swallowed up by Ripple at some point in the future. But they knew back then that this was coming. And yet, people still want to believe that SWIFT has a future, and they're all about Chainlink now. You know what's going to save Chainlink in the end? Ripple is going to save Chainlink as well. Trump's proposal to remove taxes on U.S.-based cryptocurrencies such as XRP may attract significant capital inflows into American markets. And of course, this is documented. But why hasn't there been any more talk about this? That's what I'm always wondering. You know, why come out and say, hey, maybe we eliminate taxes on U.S.-based cryptocurrencies, but then all of a sudden there's no more talk about it. Same thing with the tariffs. Well, that's going to eliminate the IRS. But give a deadline on this. Say, okay, we are going to eliminate the taxes on U.S.-based cryptocurrencies by the end of 2025. That would be great. That would get this market going alone. If they put a deadline on something, that gives it more hope and it gives it more credibility. But if they were to eliminate the taxes on XRP, and I don't know how Bitcoin got in here, but I do believe if they were to eliminate the taxes, they should eliminate the taxes on Bitcoin that's mined in the United States. Not all of Bitcoin should be tax-free. But that would definitely give these cryptocurrencies a huge advantage over others that are not US-based. And James Seifert says ETF floodgates are about to open. 6 months, futures, then spot approval. Coinbase listing an ISG framework. September 19th to October could be the spark. Take a listen to this.
Years ago, and it was like the SEC needs to come out with some like rules of the road of like, these are the assets that are like make sense to go into an ETF wrapper. Give these issuers some guidance. Like, what can I put in an ETF? Like, what's allowed? And our view was they were going to do it. And our view months ago was that one of the number one things was going to be to have a futures product, a futures contract listed with a CFTC regulated exchange. And that's what came out. So the SEC is working now with those issuers, with the exchanges to say, like, if you meet all these criteria, we'll allow you to list an ETF that holds this underlying asset. We don't need to get into too much specifics, but it comes into like surveillance sharing agreements and these different ISG organization that basically allows all these exchanges to share data with each other. But really at the end of the day, the number one requirement is basically that you have a futures contract on an asset for at least 6 months with one of those futures exchanges that meets the requirements of the CFTC, SEC. And if you do that for 6 months, they're basically going to allow you to have an ETF, which immediately opens the gate for a whole bunch of different assets. So Coinbase derivatives, that platform, is part of the ISG framework. So anything listed on Coinbase derivatives with a futures contract for 6 months, theoretically, once this framework is approved, or if it's approved as it's currently, there's going back and forth. Like as you saw with the Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs, it's the issuers exchanges going back and forth with the SEC. And that's what they're doing with this framework. theoretically, the earliest it could be approved is sometime, I think it's like September 19th. I wouldn't hold my breath for that, but that's where things are headed. But we have a whole bunch of ETFs due under the old process starting in like early October. So
September 19th to early October is when we could see a spot XRP ETF. And now you see why the futures are so important going forward. But once that happens, I think the price of XRP is going to change very quick. I think a lot of people are going to spend the rest of September stacking XRP because they know the ETFs are going to get approved already. You don't file for all these ETFs thinking that they're not going to get approved eventually. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And here's something to note. The SEC Inspector General who headed up the Gary Gensler text message investigation was Deborah Jeffrey, who happened to be appointed by Gary Gensler himself less than 3 months before his phone went inactive. What a coincidence. Remote wipe initiated. OIT performed factory reset. They wiped Gensler's phone in September of 2023. This is really interesting because just a few months prior, there was all that talk about Prometheum and the FTX and everything else that was happening at that same time. This was also when Elizabeth Warren was out there trying to crush crypto any way she can. But you see how corrupt this actually was. It goes beyond the corruption that we all knew about already. You know, now finally, it looks like the U.S. is going to push forward. I am so glad that we got Paul Atkins at the SEC now. I think he's making a lot of things happen behind the scenes. But it's like anything in Washington. It could only move so fast. You know, it's like every time you want something or you see hope for something happening within the next 30 days, it always gets kicked down the road to 60 days or 90 days. But at least Atkins is getting things done. Gary, he didn't want to get anything done. If we still had Gary Gensler, I'm telling you right now, XRP would still be sitting at 50 cents right now with no hopes of a future for XRP. Thank God we got Paul Atkins. And until it all happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.